Hey everyone, welcome back to the Art of Scumming. Thank you for tuning in, and today we're talking about Kislev again. Kislev has had an update on top of an update on top of an update. The reason I'm making this video today is because I have a strat that allows you to confederate basically all of Kislev that you want, and do so in a reasonably timed manner. As you can see, it's turn 35 here, and I've gotten all the confederations I want. I don't actually want to confederate Kistalton until I finish whatever's going on up here with my supporters balancing act here, because it's a lot easier to keep him up, as you can see here, with all the battles against his enemies. It makes it a little bit easier. But this strat allows you to meet Mother Astankia pretty quickly, and Boris. And those two, it's kind of a balancing act on which one has problems sooner, but usually it's Boris, because Boris has Archaon, Arbol, and the Demon Prince up here to deal with. And if the Demon Prince isn't a problem, then usually Epidemius is a problem. So there are a lot of threats to him in this area. Really, over here where Mother Astankia is, your only major threat over here is Marathi, and she can be a problem, but it becomes a problem a little bit later on. So about turn 8, you can get an agent over there if you load a character at Zavastra on turn 1. So you load, and I usually load a Frost Maiden. I just have like a base level Frost Maiden, and all that means is that I'm going to be less one Frost Maiden. You also have to pay for it. It's about 1,500 to load that character on turn 1. That is money that you don't really have. So it does kind of set you back a little bit. Some people might consider that cheating, but I think that it's a reasonable trade-off. You basically take that Frost Maiden, you march her right to the sea over here, and you send her on this track over here. And the other downside to that is you're going to meet all of Norska in the process. But you go over here, you meet with Mother Astankia, and then my suggestion is that you do a J-hook right here and walk her through Ulthuan to meet the three major factions of elves in Ulthuan that you might want to do some trade deals and stuff with. And then you disband her, and then you can ultimately get your second Frost Maiden. So that's how you meet Mother Astankia. But then somewhere up in here, you're going to get your Patriarchs that will come in line. You're going to send one of those Patriarchs straight to meet Boris. And the best place to do that, well, there's two ways to do it. Either you conquer this settlement at Shadratican, and that opens the sea, and you'll see if Boris holds this settlement still, you will meet him. Or you can just send a Patriarch. In my opinion, the Patriarch is the better way to do it. Get a junky trait for one of your Patriarchs, because you're going to have a whole bunch of extra Patriarchs. Like even right now, I bet you I can recruit, that's not a province that I can recruit Patriarchs from. I can recruit 10 Patriarchs on turn 35, right? So, and I'm not even trying that hard. So it's not all that big of a deal to send an extra Patriarch up here. Find Boris, disband the Patriarch, recruit one that you actually want, right? That's how you meet them, and then you can ultimately just wait for them to get wiped out and confederate the factions that you want. Now, as far as my strategy for this campaign is concerned, it has likely also changed a little bit, because the update that we just got has made what I did in this campaign probably not the optimal way to do it. So the big change that I would, or the two big changes that I would like to point out, if we go into the provincial capitals here, or the, the cultural capitals, there's a building called the, where is it? Adaman's Estate. And this gives you an opportunity to gain a trait for your Adaman, but it also increases the experience gained 1,000 for an Adaman deployed in the province. But before it stripped all of the income out of the province. Now it only takes 50% of the income out of the province. So once you get your second cultural capital, I would suggest Prague. Once you get Prague, you should pop this down and use it as a training ground for your Adamants. I have not done that because this update came out like this morning, and I was basically here, had already built all this by the time that came online. So that was not an option. So what I would probably do is I would probably skip this building, on, well, I don't know. Streltsy are pretty good, and this gives you the units that you basically need for this stage of the campaign. So I'd probably keep this one, I'd keep this one, I'd keep these two, and I'd lose this income building, even though it's worth 800. That's not all that much in relative comparison to all the other stuff that's available. And I would put an atom in here and train them using that building. But obviously in this campaign, that was not really necessary. The other things that I would like to, or excuse me, there's one more change that I would really like to point out. Well, actually two changes now that I think about it. They have lowered the cost of these to 25. So both the ones for the province and the army are now lowered to 25 as the base. So you have to be here. Yeah, you got to be here instead of here. And that's considerably easier to do on Legendary. Now, I still haven't used one of those because, you know, if I just cycle through my provinces here, it's basically really difficult to get there unless you're trying to actually do that. Look, over here, I have a province in the green, even. Well, excuse me, it's at 0. My bad. But the number's green, is what I'm saying. So it's still pretty difficult to do that, but at least gives you an opportunity where the couple buildings still cost you 50, but you can do it at 25. So you're allowed to go into the hole, basically, 25 points to do an invocation, which I think is a good balance. I'd still like to see them loosen that up a little bit, maybe increase the buffs for some of these things as far as devotion are concerned so that we can use that a little bit more. You know, maybe. The other thing that has changed substantially is they have combined some of the buildings in here. So there used to be 2 defensive structures, and now they've all been merged into one. They all do the one, you know, it's just one building chain. There's not 2 of them that do separate things. So I think that simplifying that is probably a good move. And then the other thing that they did is they turned this into a tier 4, tier 5 building into just a tier 4 building. So now to get your glaives on your ice guard, just one building, tier 4, you just got to make it to tier 4. Now, they didn't change anything with this one over here, but it is still a tier 4 building. So, I mean, it's not really... This has got parity, you can see here. So this is what you would find in a standard settlement over here. Tier 3, tier 3. Tier 4, tier 4. So it's no longer tier 3... tier 4, it's all tier 4. It's level across the board there, which makes a lot of sense, right? So now your only tier 5 units are really your monsters. Now, as far as strategy is concerned, there's a couple things you can do early in the campaign, like getting a Confederation with the Drazina Enclave right here.
Cut them down! A worthy addition to my holdings. A fellow wanderer in wild places. What do you need? You have made... Orson's... You have... Kislev...
Darkness seeps into the earth.
I purposefully chose not to do that with Prague so that I could let them build that up. And this gave me access to my Patriarchs and my Armored Cossars. And that brings me up to the topic of Armored Cossars. As soon as you have the ability to get Armored Cossars, you should rush Chaos. Because, as you can see here, turn 35, I've eliminated Arbol and Archaon, as well as consolidated much of Kislev. I'm now steamrolling through Draika right now, and then I'm going to go right into Castle Drakenhof down here and smash up Vlad, take all that territory, right? I've also taken out Azag in the process. So we've covered a lot of ground, but what I would do quicker than I did is I would rush Chaos faster than I did, even though we did it at turn 35. I'd probably rush it as soon as I deal with Azazel over here, I would turn to the right and run right into the Chaos Wastes. That's exactly what I would do. And then I would also rush the Gotrek and Felix quest faster. So I have them over here, and I did it a couple turns ago. But what you need is basically 2 patriarchs. Katerin needs to have Death Frost so that she can use the overcasted version on the Aluruses in their mission. And then you also need Heart of Winter, because what you do is you run right in there. You got to remember, you got to keep Gotrek and Felix alive. So you rush in there, you negate the damage that has been done to them with the patriarchs, and then you cast an overcasted Heart of Winter on that big blob of infantry that forms right there, and it's gone in like 20 seconds. All of it's gone because it's all demon, it's all Slanesh, and basically it's all infantry. So that spell is really, really powerful on those types of enemies. And then all of your armored Kossars, this many of them, right? So 5 armored Kossars backed up with regular Kossars is enough to annihilate that entire army, taking wave after wave. And then you just kind of like go around with Katerin on her mount and just cast that Death Frost on those Aluruses until they go down. Super easy battle. I think I showed up and it gave me like a close defeat on auto-resolve, even though you can't auto-resolve the battle. And I lost like 30 soldiers in the entire thing. So, I mean, very, very easy when playing as Katerin and Kislev. So that is what I would change going forward. I would definitely build that Adaman's Estate to get those online faster. You do absolutely want to have an Adaman in Fort Jakova, though, because a whole lot of the Cathayan caravans come through here, and you want to raid those caravans, because every single time you fight a battle, in addition to all the building that you do, you get levels. So this guy is, what, level 11? Having a 4-settlement province is beneficial for training him up. And then your second one that you get, you should put in a capital, like Prague, for instance, and use the Adaman's Estate to train them up. That's how I would change this campaign substantially in my next go-around. And I'm basically going to delete this file now and start a new one so that I can get the B-roll pieces for the video that you're watching now.
Follow the bear! Yes! Look to the winter months of us! Sons of Kislev!
Obey the orthodoxy!
The Zutormit Kossar! Hearts of ice! They use the wind against us! This word sends us forth!
Of cast the spells!
Boyar of Kislev!